So we've got FedNow, the Federal Reserve's new payment system, is set for a release in July. They've just announced this in a press release, and so this is something that's kind of linked to the idea of a Federal Reserve digital currency, even though this system is not a crypto or blockchain system. It is an improvement on what the Fed originally had with like ACH transfer, etc., because it allows immediate payments. So you send money and it arrives in a second, just like crypto does, or Zelle, or what's the other one? Venmo, that people are using now for small payments between individuals. Banks and consumers can now make payments instantly, well, starting in July, with the new FedNow system. And yeah, this is thought by some people to be a precursor to a central bank digital currency. And there was a memo from the White House which actually talked about White House digital currency. It was a fact sheet that accompanied an executive order back last year, September 2022. Dom, if you want, you can pull that up, actually, the Biden White House memo. And yeah, right at the bottom of this memo, it talks about exploring the possibility of a central bank digital currency, exploring a US digital currency, CBDC, central bank digital currency. And so it's funny that it's kind of hidden right at the bottom. They put it down right at the bottom. See, long, right? Exploring, there we go. Exploring a US central bank digital currency. So you can see that this is in the works. And many people see FedNow as a precursor to that, to get people used to instant payments without an actual coin, Fed coin. And then sort of the next step is starting an actual US Federal Reserve digital currency.
I think the consumers are already ready, are already like very aware of an instant payment, but they don't realize that when they get an instant payment, it's not really cleared on the back end. It's just the bank fronting the money for 24 hours. Right. So when you go and deposit money into Webull, or you deposit money into whatever trading app you use, they might give you 2 grand, 1,500 immediately if you put 10,000 or 5,000 in. But that's because they're just taking their assets and saying, here, we'll clear you for 24 hours. And it's kind of an incentive for you to come do business with them. So the consumer is really used to this, like me and you and everybody else, like Venmo, Zelle, Cash App, all that stuff. It's a very like right now type thing. So for the Federal Reserve to do this, it doesn't. It makes sense, right? It would make sense
Yeah.
for the banking world. Is if the money is verified and it's in the account, why are we waiting 3 days to wire it? Why are we doing an ACH that takes us 5 days to get the money? So that to me is what makes a lot of sense. For being a predecessor or precursor to the CBDC. I
Yeah.
mean,
And
I think it's inevitable. We're going to get a digital currency, whether we like it or not. Like that's coming.
I
Are they?
think the Fed kind of sees the digital currencies like Bitcoin as a threat, because people are investing in those instead of US dollar.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The forex exchange are they're taking a hit and have been since the big spike in crypto in 2019, when everybody was going, whoa, what's going on here? And then 21, and you see like the growth and everything else. So it's like, yeah, they're definitely going to get involved. And the real question I think everybody has is, if they do a central bank digital currency, are they going to try to eliminate physical currency? Right. So I think that's why you get a lot of people on both sides of the fence going, it's good, it's bad. But like, is this 10 years down the road where they're like, yeah, we don't have paper money anymore, it can transmit diseases? So it's like, how does this all come together fundamentally? And I think digital currency it's not a bad thing. I think that fundamentally it's just an evolution of our society. of saying, hey, this is the way we operate on computers. I spend more than half. I spend 7/10 of my day on a computer now.
Yeah.
If it's a work day, we're stuck in front of it all the time. And so, there's already cities, countries that are already have their own digital currencies going.
That's true. And we got a couple of examples here, actually. So the Bahamas, they started their own central bank digital currency called the sand dollar, which, seems to have been reasonably successful. There's quite a few Caribbean nations doing it. And then Nigeria is the first African nation to do a central bank digital currency. And I think there's an article here. So they started it last year, and I think they've had something like $10 million worth of transactions since October. That article's probably a little bit out of date. So it's probably a little bit more now. Yeah, okay. So actually they started it in 2021, I think. So countries are doing this, smaller countries, but obviously if the US adopted a central bank digital currency, it would be a huge thing because the US dollar is obviously the world's
Currency.
reserve currency, right? So yeah. But I also see, the kind of threat of, crypto, because crypto is not inflating. It's actually deflating. It's, the price, or at least, for many years was going up in value. You see how Bitcoin has been going up in value, etc. But the dollar is the opposite. It's lost a huge amount of its value. And I've got some statistics here that show you just how much value the dollar is losing. So there's a graph, but the dollar has lost. Let me just have a look at this. So the dollar has lost since 1983. The dollar has lost 63% of its purchasing power. So if you had a dollar in 1983, that would be worth just 37 cents today, right? So roughly, if you went back, how do I explain it? $1 now would only buy the same amount of stuff that 37 cents would in 1983, right? And more shockingly, if you look at the graph from 1913, you go all the way back to 1913, it's actually $1,000 back then, has gone down to $37 today. Okay, so in other words, if you had $1,000, it would only buy as much stuff as $37 would in 1913 if you had $1,000 today. So, you see how much the inflation is causing the devaluation of money, which is actually a hidden tax on the people. And the Fed intentionally wants to keep inflation at 2%, even though it's higher now, but their target is 2%, which is still kind of like a hidden tax, because whatever money you earn in the stock market, you have to deduct 2% off of it for inflation if we're at their target. So I think they're scared that people are, investing in digital currencies that are increasing in value rather than decreasing. And they want people to invest in, so ultimately, people suspect, they could create this digital currency and then ban crypto, ban other crypto, ban non-regulated cryptos, etc. Whether that's going to happen or not, I don't know.
Well, I think about it from a fundamental perspective is if they're going to actually remove the crypto currencies, well, then how do VPNs are going to get around that pretty quickly, and it's really kind of interesting to think about. I think they just want to be in the game. You know what I mean? And right now, fiat currencies, fundamentally, you would think if more people use your money, you should be increasing the value of that money, right? But instead, the more people that use the dollar, the less valuable it becomes because there is no fixed amount of dollars. There's fixed amounts of Bitcoin. There's only going to be 23 million Bitcoins available.
21.
21 million Bitcoins available, right? And they're not all mines yet, right? So it's like, when you think about it fundamentally, the US dollar, who knows how many are out there? I don't know. Does anybody even know how many US dollars exist? Is that even a
It's
real
infinite.
question? Yeah, it just goes on forever. So naturally, it's going to deflate or it's going to inflate, So it's like how do we look at this? And the Fed's coming out with their inflation numbers, and so you've got a lot of different things that are taking place over there right now. I mean, if you look at the European Central Bank, they decided to actually keep on with what they're doing. I mean, Christine Lagarde said that, hey, we're gonna raise rates 50 base points.
Yeah.
They're not playing games. They just bailed out a bank that essentially is their Lehman Brothers, right?
Yeah.
And and they're going to increase rates. What's going to happen?
And next week, we're going to see what happens here with the Fed, because they're due to, in theory, increase rates next week. So who knows, right?
No, that's the mystery. History's mysteries, or whatever you want to call it. Like, is it going to repeat itself? Are we living in this like cyclical environment? I mean, 10 out of the 12 last recessions in the United States were caused by the Federal Reserve to steer off inflation going too fast. I mean, if our inflation numbers, it's a pretty rocky road we're heading down right now, and I would almost say you're not even going to be able to drive a car down it. You need to get into a dirt bike or a horse to navigate it, because it's going to be pretty bumpy. With how it looks, unless they did come up with that new term banking where you can borrow money against bought treasuries. I don't know. It blows my mind.
The Fed's new program to save SVB, right?
Yeah. So it's interesting to really think about. But I know that crypto is a deflating currency, and before 1913,
At least Bitcoin.
Well,
and other cryptos in general, I guess they have the same idea.
I mean,
Bitcoin is
Ethereum,
probably the one that's more guaranteed to deflate as it goes towards 21 million.
Bitcoin is the US dollar, right? In the crypto world.
Exactly. The reserve currency. Yeah.
The reserve currency of crypto is definitely Bitcoin. But Ethereum, I mean, at the same token is on the, no pun intended, but like
it has more utility.
Yeah, it has more utility, but it's also going up in value.
Yeah.
Pretty consistently.